Welcome, everyone. My name is Danielle Fichter. I'm an Associate Director in the Career Development Center. And today is the Communication and Media Studies Career Day. This is a collaboration between the Career Development Center and the Communication and Media Studies Department. Throughout the day, we've invited alumni to join us for conversations about their careers in order to give you insight into different career paths, industries, and also to get advice on how to enter and thrive in these fields. So our guest for this session today is Emily Hanlon. Emily is a 2018 SJU graduate who majored in communications and art. Emily currently works for Free People as a buying assistant in the accessories department. Prior to her current role, Emily was a design coordinator for Free People. During her time at St. Joe's, Emily served as a resident assistant, an orientation leader, and a summer conference assistant. She also gained experience in writing, marketing, and events through the various roles she held with Alpha Phi, Her Campus Media, and the Philadelphia Zoo. I'm very excited to hear from Emily today and welcome her back to Hawk Hill. So thank you for being with us today, Emily.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to meet everyone. Glad to be back at SJU.
Yeah. So I have a list of 10 questions I'm going to be asking you, and then we'll follow it up with 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A. So everyone in the audience, feel free to write your questions in the chat box as you think of them, and then we will ask Emily your questions at the end of the session. And we'll also leave some time for you to ask her questions directly if you'd prefer to do that. So let's get started. We're going to begin with a series of career-focused questions. So Emily, can you begin by describing within your current role the core responsibilities and what a typical day or week looks like for you?
Sure. So for a buyer, you're keeping track of the merchandise that is going to go into stores and then also online. You're seeing if your styles are hitting for certain months. So making sure that all of your March styles are coming in accordingly so that they can go online and they can go in stores. You're grabbing samples, passing them to the photo studio to be shot. So you could see those beautiful pictures online and everyone knows what the style is. You're corresponding with vendors, making sure that your items are coming in on time, that there's no delays in production, that if you want to make a change to a style, they know that. Picking out colors for things, naming certain styles, and just getting to like touch and feel product and see, okay, what's it going to look like on someone. So also like going into fit meetings and making sure, I work with bags and belts. So for belts, making sure that like a small is going to really fit what a small should be like and making sure that, you know, those things are in order. So that's what my day-to-day looks like.
Great, quite a variety.
Yes.
Okay, so when did you know that this was the career path you wanted to pursue and what led you to that decision?
So going into college, I declared communications my freshman year, and I didn't even know if that was exactly what I wanted to do. My dad was actually a communications major in college, so he was the one that kind of steered me to do it. And then as I started taking classes, I realized like this was the field I wanted to be in. And then I added art as a double major to have more of that creative feel as well, and then advertising promotions as my minor to have that business feel. So it wasn't until I was a junior, I would say, that after I had an internship and event planning, that I was like, I want to do something different than events. And I was looking at different companies in the Philadelphia area, and I saw that URBN has their home base in the Navy Yard. And so that's what made me start thinking of working for one of the brands. And so Free People has always stood out to me. And I applied my senior year, and luckily I got an offer, and I've been there ever since. So.
Great. Thank you, Emily. I just want to remind everyone real quick, if you use the speaker view, you'll be able to see both Emily and I highlighted on your screen. But let me jump into the next question. I think it was really important that you pointed out that you enjoyed the business and the creative side of things,
Yes.
because that's an important aspect of your
Mhm.
job. So what is a typical career path for an entry-level associate within your organization?
So I would say that out of the buyers I know, not everyone has like the same major. Like some people are communications, some people are fashion merchandising, some people have an art background, some people have a business background. So they could be in finance or accounting, whatever it may be. And they realize that maybe they want to be in a creative atmosphere, and Free People offers that. So like you just said, like buying has a very analytical side to it, which you have to see all the numbers and you're looking at the business in a different way, how much money we're making on a product, what we're projecting to make in a month or a year, and what we're actually like hitting currently. So you see the number side of things, but then the creative side is seeing the product, feeling the product, getting to design the product, uh, which is cool. And so there isn't necessarily a clear major you have to be, but I think for a buyer, you have to enjoy the analytical side of things. So if you're a communications major, great. If you like numbers, the analytical side and being organized, that sort of thing, that would be a great career path for you. But there's also other positions at the company that if you're more creative minded, that you can go towards that path of like designer, merchandiser, anything like that. And at my company, they really allow you to explore those options. So you can go and shadow someone for a day and see, what position that they have. Let's say if they're in the photo studio, you can go see like what a day in the life is like of that. And we also have a mentorship program where you will get a mentor, someone who's been at the company for a very long time in a higher position, and they'll kind of guide you towards, your career path at the company, which is nice. So
That's great.
Mhm.
Okay. What do you enjoy the most about your profession, Emily? And what is something that you wish you could change?
um, something that I enjoy the most is getting to see something at the start of the life cycle and the end of it. So seeing it from when it's first sketched out on a piece of paper to seeing it physically on someone like out in the streets. It's nice to be like, oh, I know that shirt's from Free People, or like I helped design that, or I named that, or we picked out the color for it. It's just there's something about what I love about working in fashion is that style is consistently changing, and so getting to see something on someone and how they style it, I think is incredible, because I might have not necessarily thought, oh, you can wear um, a shirt or pants this way, but someone makes it their own, and I think that's incredible, and I love that aspect of my job. Something I wish I could change is that I was speaking to Danielle about this earlier. The position I was in before was a design coordinator position, which I had a great team. I really loved working with them, but there wasn't a clear growth path. And in buying there is, which is nice, but not all positions there is. And sometimes you feel a little stuck and you're like, I don't know where to go from here. So always making sure, okay, how can I pivot and find something where I am constantly growing and I'm constantly working harder and trying to be more. So,
Can you explain a little bit what that growth path is within buying?
yeah. So, you start out at an assistant level, and from there you go into an associate level. And associates have more, so you'll get like a certain category. So for belts and bags, you might start off just keying orders in as an assistant and doing small tasks. And then as an associate, you start to hone in on a certain category. So it might be, right now I'm working on belts. So you will start to get a little more responsibility of the business in that area. And then from associate, you go to senior, and that's when you have a full range of your categories. So belts and bags is one category. So you would be in charge of that and getting to call the shots of what gets put online and in stores, which is really cool. And then from there is a director, and the director oversees multiple categories. So for accessories, that might look like bags, belts, socks, jewelry, hair accessories, shoes, that sort of thing. And then from there, you could go into an even higher position if you want, but a lot of people will stay at director. The pay increases as like years go on, but I think the next thing above director would be like a COO or CEO kind of level. So director is mostly the highest you'll go, but it's a nice, clear growth path. So, which is great.
Perfect. Thank you for explaining that. I think it gives everybody a little bit of perspective. What would you say has surprised you the most about your career path so far?
So when I went into this career, I was a design coordinator. So I worked with designers, and I thought that was something that I was going to go into. So the designers are the ones that like sketch up the dress or the shirt or the pants, and they pick the fabrics, and they really are the ones with the creative minds to come up with these concepts. And I thought with my like art background that that's what I was going to do. And it just didn't fulfill me in the way that I wanted it to. So I really thought I was going to go into design and have that. And I actually went into buying because I was like, like I said, I've liked to be analytical. I like the creative, and the two worlds kind of collide there. So, yeah, I was the most surprised that I was going to go into buying because it is, it's a lot of work. And you have to be very organized. Your day to day, if you're someone that likes to check off tasks, it's not always the best because there's always something else you can be doing. Like at the end of the day, you're not going to have everything completed. You're going to have things that roll over into the next day, but it's just prioritizing and making sure that the things that are priority get done first. So yeah, coming out of SGA, I was like, oh, I'd hate a job like that, but I've actually ended up loving it. So having an open mind and really like, I'm very thankful for those 3 years I had in the design coordinator position. They taught me a lot. They taught me a different part of the business, but listening to like your inner self, and if you're saying I want more, like pivot and try to go get more. So
that's great advice. I'm going off the questions a little bit, but
that's okay.
Can you, for those of the students that may be considering design versus buying or creative versus analytical, can you explain a little bit how you as a buyer work with the design team? So you kind of keep your hand in that a little bit?
Yeah. So the accessories world is very different from the apparel world. And by what I mean by apparel is, your pants and your blouses and your dresses and all of that. And accessories is your hats and your gloves and your bags and your belts. With apparel, you have a design team. And those designers, like I said, are the ones that are coming up with the shirts that you buy. They have it in their head, or they see a tear of, I don't know, Kylie Jenner wearing a shirt and being like, I want to recreate that. And so then the buyers are the ones that will come in and sit in on the meetings where the designers will present their, let's say, 10 styles that they want to put into a month, let's say March. And you as a buyer have to determine, okay, I like 8 of the 10 styles you presented. Can we buy 8 of those styles? So do we have the budget and the allocation to accept those 8 styles? And also you have to think about, okay, who is your customer base? So you might have a very girly girl, but you might also have like a tomboy type of girl. So are these 8 styles fitting your customer? Also, you look at previous years and you think about, okay, short sleeve smock tops did great for us last year, and we want to bring at least one style like that into this year. So you're constantly looking at data, you're constantly trying to say, okay, how can we improve ourselves? That's where the analytical side comes in of buying. You still get to touch and feel the product. You still get to say, hey, I like this top, but I want it to be shorter. You get to ultimately determine the final call on things, which is great. And that's where you still have that creative feel to it. That's what apparel looks like. For accessories, we don't have a design department. We kind of create things with the vendors. So our overseas vendors, we create the product. We'll look at pictures and be like, we want something along these lines. And we also work with market vendors, which for like shoes, that would be like a Jeffrey Campbell or a Vans, and you work with your market vendor to create maybe an exclusive collab or certain colors that are only sold within our brand. So
Perfect. Thank you so much. I feel like that gives everybody, you know, a sense
better
of where they might fit in. Okay, so I'm going to shift gears a little bit. I want to focus on the actions that students can take. And just a quick reminder for those of you who have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll answer them at the end. So Emily, I'm going to ask you about internships in a sec, but for now, what 2 to 3 experiences would you suggest students engage in while in college to help prepare them for this field after graduation?
So of the things I was involved in, honestly, being a part of my sorority is actually, I was able to gain certain connections that helped me in my interview process, actually at URBN. So you don't necessarily need to be in the sorority I was in, but having, those connections of, okay, a girl 4 years ago is working at the same company I want to work at, like, let me reach out to her and see if there's any positions available. Was just having those connections really, or even just having a chat with that person helped me realize, okay, this is something that I could see myself doing. This is a company I definitely want to work at. How do we make that happen? So I said Greek life was a really big part of my SJU experience and helped guide me towards this career path, and that gave me those connections. Being a part of Apex also helped. The Jesuit, with and for others motto. Really, when I was on Apex, you work with a lot of different people. You work with a lot of different personality types, different work ethics, and that helped prepare me for the real world of like, okay, you're not going to always see eye to eye with certain people, but how do you work cohesively, like with your team and with certain people that might think differently than you, isn't necessarily a bad thing. Those people might help push you to think in a way that you're like, oh, actually, that's a better idea than what I had. So, and also at my company as well, we have different organizations that help, like Girls Inc. is an organization that kind of reminds me of like why I went to SJU, wanted to go to a Jesuit university, to be women and men with and for others, and living greater and all of those Jesuit values of like being a person for others. And so at my company, we have a bunch of organizations that help us be out in the community, help make a difference, help put things in perspective. So again, Apex was another great experience that helps me prepare me for my role now. And then Greek life, and then I would say those two things probably the most like prepared me for the real world now.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a lot of interpersonal
Mhm.
connections, and it sounds like you work very collaboratively, so that makes sense. Um, how did you get your first job or internship? Or I guess in this case, how did you get that design coordinator position with Free People that then launched you into this part of your career?
Right. So URBN actually came to talk to SJU. They had like a little session in Mandeville. It was like fall of my senior year, and they were saying that they were starting this day in the spring. It was like a new program where they were going to invite a handful of students to come in and have like a round robin interview where you were interviewing with buying, design, allocation, and planning. And you got to meet with the different brands. So for URBN, that's Urban Outfitters, Anthropologie, Free People, Beholden Terrain. And so I went to the session. They wanted you to do a project for it, submit your resume. So I did all of that. And then they wanted you to do like a video interview type of thing. So I did that as well. And then I got an email. And they wanted me to come in for the round robin day. So I did that. It was a very long interview process because I met with a different brand. So then they wanted to interview. I interviewed with Anthropologie, I interviewed with Urban Outfitters, and I interviewed with Free People. And ultimately, Free People was the one that I connected to the most. And it was they had a position that had the creative element that I was craving. So, and once I interviewed with them, I think I had 3 separate interviews with Free People alone. And it felt like eternity. I didn't get my position or the offer letter, I should say, until August after graduation. And so it's a scary time during that time, being like, what am I going to do? But it all fell into place, and they gave me the offer, and they're like, you need to start in 2 weeks. So I was like, okay, starting in 2 weeks. And that's how it happened. And I've been at the company ever since.
That's great. It's great to hear that you found that through an info session at St. Joe's
Yeah.
as well. Because I know Urban does not usually come to career fairs and things like that. So sometimes it's the
No.
smaller opportunities
Yeah.
that can be beneficial. I know you talked about video interviewing and also just the regular interviews that you've done. Can you share 1 or 2 interview tips, either from the perspective of somebody who recruits at your organization, or just lessons you've learned from your own interviews with students? Just a couple of tips.
Yeah. Ask questions. Like have questions ready to ask at the end of your interview process, because the person interviewing you wants to hear that. They don't want to hear, oh no, I have nothing to ask. Like if you want to work at a company, you're excited about working at a company, you should have questions. You should have like, okay, even if it's as simple as, what did your career path look like? How did you get here? You want someone who's going to be engaged with you. So always have questions, at least 2 to 3. And you might not even be able to ask them all, but just have them lined up. And then also do the research for the company you're interviewing for. So for Free People, when I was interviewing just for buying alone, I remember the recruiter saying to me, she was like, because I already knew her because I worked at the company, but she said to me, one of the things that I dislike the most is when I ask someone, okay, name 5 brands that you like. And if someone can't name them to me, I'm like, why are you going to work then in the fashion industry? So whatever company you go for, do the research, make sure you are prepared with any question that they throw at you. It could be as simple as they might ask you, okay, what organizations do we donate to? They just want to know that you have the knowledge and that you're excited to work at the company. So if it's a fashion company and you really enjoy fashion, bring that enthusiasm to the interview. If it's something in finance, figure out, all right, how did this company start? Where, how was it created? What's the background of the person that's interviewing me to? LinkedIn is a beautiful thing. You can learn about, where someone went to school, what their career path looked like. And you can even bring that up, be like, oh, I saw that you worked at Rag and Bone before coming to Free People. What did that look like, and what made you want to go to a different company? Just having those little things are what is going to make you stand out in an interview and make a person be like, oh, I've really liked so and so because they brought XYZ to the table and they were prepared.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Your St. Joe's education included keystones of social justice and ethics. How would you say that this has impacted how you work and some of the career decisions you've made to date?
So I went to a Jesuit high school. I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I went to Scranton Prep, and I knew that from coming from a Jesuit high school, I wanted to go to a Jesuit university. And I was between 2, and I ultimately picked St. Joe's. Our admitted student stay is amazing, but and SJU felt like home. And I got involved in so many things while I was on campus, whether that was RA Life Orientation, Apex. I was involved in campus ministry, and Greek life, like I said. Just all of those things made me want to be, to live greater, and to constantly be a person who is growing and strengthening my relationships with others. And I wanted to be at a company that I had that had those same values. And so I wanted to be at a company where I wasn't stagnant, where I wasn't hating to go to work every day. I wanted a job where I was like, I want to wake up and love what I do. I want to have a job where I have the passion, and I have the fire in the belly to constantly be the best version of myself, and also to be at a company where you're impacting others and having others impact you. I have met some of the greatest people. I've been involved with some of the greatest organizations where you're impacting someone's life, someone who's less fortunate than you are, and it really puts things into perspective. And I constantly want to be better. And so Free People, or I should say URBN as a whole, has those things that I was looking for. I didn't want to just neglect all of those things I learned at St. Joe's. And so I wanted to be in a career where those were still relevant. So, yeah.
Great. And I know you mentioned that you were working with Girls Inc.
Mm-hmm.
So is that a volunteer opportunity through Free People?
Yeah, so we have a couple. So there's Girls Inc. We are really big into our like Going Green efforts as well on our campus. So we do like for April, we have like a World Cleanup Day that we do together. We have one of our departments is also FP Movement, which is our activewear line, but that we do a lot of stuff with different organizations about having, constantly moving, as we call it, where we're helping different organizations with different events, with, giving people who don't have the opportunity to, let's say, go to certain classes, certain workout opportunities, we do different donation drives as well. So a lot of our clothing that we don't use will go to those organizations as well. So whether that's, tops, bags, belts, whatever it is, making sure that those are going to people who need them and not going to waste and just sitting in a landfill somewhere. Those are just some of like the different organizations, but Girls Inc. specifically helps give, because Free People is a mostly woman-based company, which is awesome. We do have men that work there as well, but our CEO is a female, and so we wanted to be and partner with an organization that helps young girls have the tools to go into different career paths that they might not normally get in their certain home environments, that they have a place where they can go and get the tools to learn to help with their career paths or just their growth path in general. So that was a very important organization for us to work with.
Very cool. Thank you for expanding on that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what types of internships should students try to secure to prepare for a role like yours or one just within the fashion industry?
So I think if you can go into a buying internship would be great, obviously, if you want to be a buyer, but if you can't, then I would say any position that you can, if there's a company you want to work for, let's say it's a Nike, if you can secure, some of these companies have internship programs. If you can, secure one of those programs, that's huge. Or even just a position, it might not necessarily be the position that you want in the grand scheme of things, but you can work your way up to that. Just getting your foot in the door somewhere is very important. And so when I started at Free People, I wasn't even full-time, I was a temp. And they give you a 3-month period, and it's kind of sink or swim. You have to prove yourself. And so, and I did, and then I was offered a full-time position. So some companies are going to do that, and don't be discouraged by that. Just go after it and try your hardest and, go from there.
Great. And I think you had mentioned this before, but with Alpha Phi, you were able to make some connections, right, within the industry?
Yes.
So I guess I just mentioned that because, if you're having a difficult time finding a job within the fashion industry on your own, using your personal network just through friends of friends could be helpful, correct?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Sometimes it's all about who you know. Sometimes it is, and so that's not a bad thing. That just might help you get your foot in the door, and but then it's on you to do the work and to perform. For me, I had a couple of girls in my sorority work down at the Navy Yard at the different brands. They were in different positions. Some of them were in buying, some of them were in allocation or in recruiting. And I reached out to one of them to talk with me about what she did at her job and kind of walk through what the day in the life of a buyer looks like. And then another girl in my sorority, she had a parent who also worked at the Navy Yard, and she was able to put me in contact with him to talk about what an opportunity at Free People would look like. And so honestly, without those connections, I don't know what my job path would have looked like, but they helped guide me and ultimately get me an interview. And then, like I said, it was on me to prove that like I deserve a full-time position. And fortunately, I was able to get that. And I've been at the company ever since, almost 4 years now, which is crazy. But yeah, it's make those connections. And it could be as silly as it's someone you have class with every day, right? Like you might see, oh, their brother or father or mother, whomever works at a company I want to work at. It's just, you never know. So.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So just two final questions as we come to a close here. What is something that you wish someone told you when you were in school?
I wish, someone told me that like it's okay if, the major that you have in school isn't reflective on, your ultimate career path. For my freshman, sophomore year, I was so, okay, I need to do something. I need to find something in the communications world, which ultimately I ended up finding something that I did, but I was afraid to apply to other jobs because I'm like, oh, my major doesn't align with that. And I honestly, once you get out into the real world, it doesn't matter about your major. You could work at a company and it could be, in your major, and you could absolutely hate it and be like, actually, I want to go and do something else. And I've seen tons of people do that where their major isn't what they end up wanting to do. And that doesn't mean that, you failed, right? Like you figured it out. It's hard at 18 years old to say, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And you don't need to put a cap on that. You could find something you'd love to do at 25 years old or 30 years old. It's, constantly, you want to constantly be growing and to be better. So if you don't like what you do, change it, pivot, find something that you love and try to get paid at it. So
pivot's our word of the day.
it is.
All right, last question. What is a piece of advice you would give to students who are interested in this career path specifically?
To, if you want it, go after it. It's going to be a lot of work. It is, some nights are long nights, some mornings are early mornings. There are points where you might feel overwhelmed and be like, can I do this? Like, yes, you can. We've all been in that position. We've all felt like, maybe I can't, but you can. And if it's something that you really, really want, keep working. And if you are getting no's or you're not getting the yeses on interviews, keep trying, don't get discouraged. It took me a couple of tries to be able to get to the position where I am now. I had certain brands say no to me, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, but I kept pushing, like, if you really want it, go after it. And I ultimately got the yes at the end of this, which, yeah, if you want something, go get it and work really hard for it. And that's probably what my advice would be for everyone.
Yeah, persistence and hard work.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Emily.
Yeah.
We're gonna now transition to the Q&A part of the session.
Okay.
I don't see any questions in the chat right now, but please add them if you have them. I know Tara had a question. So Tara, do you want to unmute yourself for a second and ask Emily what was on your mind?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Emily. I'm
Hi,
Tara.
Tara.
Definitely appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. We have a lot in common. I'm also from Scranton. I went to Scranton
Oh,
Prep.
funny.
Yes.
What's
And
your last name?
Rabin.
Oh, so is Tova your?
Yes, that's my older sister.
Yes. And she's
Oh
dating
my
Brian. Yes, I know them both.
You're still dating, going on 10 years strong
I
now.
know, crazy. Good for them.
It's a small world. Yes, but I definitely appreciate you talking about your experiences. I currently work as a stylist at Free People in the Ardmore location, and I think definitely like an end goal for me is to work at home office. So
Yes.
seeing like when we were having like the talk with you today, I was so excited that like you work at Free People because it is all about making connections. So I guess what is your best advice for someone that wants to get into the company?
Right. So honestly, a lot of the people at my company come from stores, funny enough, which is great for you. The company really appreciates people, like the longevity that people have. So starting off in stores is a great way to get your foot in the door at home office. And I think too, like, talk with your manager because they might also know someone at home office who can help steer you to, even if it's a quick Q&A with someone, or it might lead into an interview where you're like, hey, I want to do this. Constantly be looking at the job openings too, and just keep sending your resume in, and try to find something where you're going to stick out too. So even I remember I had Professor Allen for marketing, and we had to do a company, and we ended up doing Free People, funny enough, before I worked there. And I had to make a whole lookbook, right? And so I actually attached that to my resume when I sent it in. And it was just something that they were like, it was different, right? You stood out and we wanted to interview you. So yeah, try to put something, a little twist on your resume or something that you send in to like make you stand out. And also, keep working at the store, talk with your higher ups and see if they know anyone as well. And if you have any questions at all, you could always come talk to me. I'd be happy to help you anyway. I know what it's like. I and what the interview process is like. And so any way I can help, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering my question. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
Thanks, Tara. That was a great question. Anybody else have any questions? Any of the professors that are joining us, if you want to ask as well, anybody can jump in. Okay. If not, thank you so much, Emily, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. You provided some great insight into your career, and we're grateful for your time. We hope to see you back here on Hawk Hill soon. And everybody that joined us, this session was recorded. We recorded every session for the day, and they will be on YouTube within the next week or so. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day.